The Oklahoma City Thunder right now might have the most dominant defense in NBA history. With a defensive rating of 103.4, the closest team, Houston, is over 7.5 points behind. And to put that in perspective, that 7.5 difference is the same gap that Houston has between the LA Clippers, who currently have the 5th worst defensive rating in the NBA. But last night, the San Antonio Spurs found lots of ways to crack that defense and get good shots. In this video, we're going to try to figure out what exactly happened. Was it the Spurs' elite guard play, Victor Wembanyama returning to action, or were they actually able to use their defense to fuel their offense? Now, obviously, OKC's roster defensively is ridiculous. From the guard and wing positions, I don't think we've ever seen a team with this much depth. Guys like Cason Wallace, Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, and Lou Dort could all literally be first team all defense. And then on the backside, you have Chet Holmgren hovering around the basket, who I think is a legit top 3 rim protector. But despite this team's defensive talent, I would actually argue that their team concepts plays an even bigger factor to their defense. OKC's elite at guarding the ball with all 5 guys. They're constantly sending heavy help in gap, with additional shifts from the weak side. Along with that ability to shrink the floor, they also have the speed to scramble out, recover, and force countless of turnovers. As soon as Wemby gets below the arc here, he's immediately met by 3 defenders. And then again on the pickup here, they have the mobility to scramble out and jump in passing lanes. So to crack this kind of defense in the half court, I think you pretty much need 2 things. First, you have to be able to shoot the ball. If you're not able to punish OKC for gapping or throwing multiple bodies towards the paint, you're pretty much dead. But San Antonio as a team is shooting above 36% from 3, so they kind of check this box. And then second and more importantly, you also need elite on-ball creation. And more specifically, you need guys that can shoot off the dribble, break down the defense, finish in traffic, while also being a reliable decision maker from every spot on the floor. Most teams will be lucky to have 1 or 2 guys who check all those boxes. But San Antonio has 3. De'Aaron Fox at 27 years old is still one of the fastest players in the NBA. He's a really tough one-on-one matchup. The guy can score out of pick and roll, has the footwork to navigate through traffic, while also turning himself into a pretty consistent off-the-dribble shooter from the mid-range and 3. Stephon Castle in just his 2nd year is already one of the most explosive and dynamic paint scorers in the league. The guy can play off 2 feet, use different strides, or just explode up and play a level above the defense. And in open space, he also has the handle to cook a variety of matchups. And while the 3-point numbers so far this year aren't great, he's still a guy that the defense can't afford to leave open. And then off the bench, the Spurs also have the rookie Dylan Harper. At 6'5", he's an absolute bull when coming downhill. He's got the size to bump through contact, plus elite patience and control when playing in traffic. And from beyond the 3, he's another guy that's more than comfortable getting into jumpers off the dribble. So the Spurs having 3 guys who are extremely dynamic with the ball allow them to have a pretty simple offensive approach. It was all about dotting the floor with shooters and targeting OKC's bigs in spread pick and roll. And from a personal standpoint, this is the one weakness that OKC has. Both Chet and Ihart are more comfortable sagging back and playing a level below the screen. But if any of San Antonio's guards were able to turn the corner with a head of steam, they're going to be really hard to deal with for even the best backline defenders. They can stop short from 8 to 10 feet and sink these soft in-between floaters, use that pace to navigate through traffic and find finishing windows, or just stop short and pop threes at the level of the screen. And then even though OKC has elite defenders on the ball who can blow up screening actions, the Spurs guards also have elite skill and physicality, and they can capitalize on any given angles. This pick here is being set pretty well below the arc, and Cason Wallace is able to get over and stay on Castle's hip. But from this spot, he can still bump him down for another 2-foot floater. Wallace again on this play does a good job of pressing up and staying attached. But with his momentum bouncing around like this, Fox can lose him with his push cross and snatchback. Now the Spurs also went out of their way to target OKC's bigs off the ball. Chet here is guarding the shooter in the corner, and Fox puts him in the closeout by just pitching the ball over, which leads to a blow-by, paint touch, and open 3 on the opposite wing. In semi-transition here, look how Chet is trying to park himself in the paint. But with him sitting this deep in help, it's also impossible for him to be in position to defend this Luke Cornett flare screen. I love the spacing that San Antonio gets on this play. We're first using Harrison Barnes as a passing hub, pulls Holgram out of the paint. And then having Kornet here setting this pin down screen pulls iHeart out of the paint too. And that frees up the basket for Kornet to roll off the screen. Now with the way OKC defends, with that heavy shifting and gapping, being able to pass the ball and make the right play is a must. And I thought the Spurs got really good shots with just simple drive, kick and swing passes. And this is another benefit to having multiple ball handlers and shooters on the floor. A lot of what they were doing was collapsing the defense with simple pin down or ball screen actions, to then reverse the ball and take the open shots that came. And honestly, it looked a lot like the Pacers' approach in the finals. It was just a bunch of quick hit actions to then take the first available shot. And while some of these looks may be contested or early in the shot clock, it's much better to actually get a shot off as opposed to running the risk of turning the ball over with multiple passes or dribbles. And the thing is, I thought San Antonio got a lot of good shots that they missed. For the game, they shot 31% from 3, and a big chunk of those misses were wide open. This is an action that they were running a lot of. As the defense shrinks down during an isolation, they run a quick flare screen to get a shooter open on the weak side. I also thought Stephon Castle specifically did a really good job of scanning the entire floor and making cross-court reads. While many of these passes didn't lead to buckets, these again are the perfect reads to counter the aggressive weak side defense. So that pretty much sums up the way the Spurs attacked OKC's defense in the half court. They were using that elite guard play to attack the Thunder's bigs in the middle of the floor, to then punish the aggressive gapping with easy swing and skip passes. Plus, they were able to find ways to attack those bigs off the ball with different pin downs and flare screens. And because their roster is loaded with ball handling and shooting, they had the personnel to attack those shifts and get good shots. Now, regardless of what your game plan is in the half court, getting stops against OKC and running in transition is a must. No matter who it is, it's always going to be easier to score against a defense that isn't set. And I think San Antonio specifically has the firepower to be really problematic in the open court. Again, they have multiple slashers and shooters. They can attack cross matchups and put a ton of pressure on the rim. And that's either going to lead to high quality 2s or open 3s, which like we all know are the best shots in basketball. Now, it's also important to note that Victor Wembanyama was on the court for 20 minutes, and his impact was for sure felt. First, I thought he was really active on the offensive glass, which was huge, because while San Antonio was going through their dry spell, he was able to keep them in the game by scrapping for extra possessions. And in general, whenever Victor is on the court, he's going to be a matchup problem. He's got too much guard skills for any big to deal with an open space, and if he gets a catch from 17 feet and under, it's going to either be an open shot or foul. This was my favorite play of the entire game, where he gets the catch against J-Dub and watch him turn right over for a jumper like he's a JV player. And the Spurs were also able to leverage Victor's gravity off the ball to get shots. Look how the weak side here rotates across, as Victor is trying to post up Caruso, and that's just an automatic skip past the opposite corner. Same thing here. Cason Wallace is digging down towards the paint, so that's just a swing pass and open 3 for Fox. Now, in general, I still think the Thunder are the best team in the NBA. Even with Wemby fully healthy, I would pick them in a 7-game series against San Antonio. But at the same time, I don't think OKC is bulletproof. I think teams with enough shooting and passing can get good looks against them. And while OKC does have top-tier shot creation in the half court, their 3-point numbers as a team are lagging behind. And at times, they can be a very stagnant, shea-focused offense. And like we've seen in the past, it is very possible to bottle this team up defensively, which will then feed into your transition offense even more. So again, I think OKC is the best team in the NBA, but the gap is kind of closer than people realize.